All right, boys, today we are going over Proverbs chapter 1 so we can learn about biblical manhood, so we can learn to lead others, our future family, future wife, our job, profession, whatever it may be. We need to learn how to ground ourselves in God's word, to follow him faithfully, and of course, lean not on our own understanding, because that is what leads us astray. So, Proverbs 1 perfectly explains this, so let's get into it. The first thing we need to understand is what the foundation of wisdom is built upon. The world often tells us that it is built upon bravery or knowledge or any of those worldly things, but wisdom in the Bible is actually built on something else. It is built on Proverbs 1:7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise this wisdom and instruction. That is because fools don't know what wisdom actually is. They think it's something that you gain from the world. They think that it is vertical, that first bullet point, something that you obtain and you climb the ladder. You see this tangible difference because I know X, Y, and Z more than him. No, it is instead horizontal. It is built on a fear of the Lord, which is a reverence. There must be a distinction in between God's omniscient, all-wise mind and your mind. You need to be aware of that distinction. You need to be aware of your place. Because as Socrates says, wisdom is knowing that you know nothing. Once you come to terms with your ignorance, that is when God's wisdom is realized through you. So you must, in order to be wise, fear the Lord. Fear him by knowing your weakness and his strength. And that is when wisdom is first planted within your soul. Second thing we must go over is how to stay away from temptation, because if there's one thing that subverts the growth of wisdom, it is falling into temptation. Proverbs 1:10 through 18, it's a quick sum up of it, but it says, "My son, if sinners entice you, do not consent, because they actually set ambush for their own lives." In order to overcome temptation, you need to understand its fruit. You need to understand what you are actually paying with so you can know the result and flee from it. Sin promises gain, but it steals life. Sin rebrands destruction as an opportunity. So if you can understand the counterfeit payment method that sin uses, overcoming temptation becomes easier. You need to prioritize a higher perspective over what you are getting out of it. What is the result? And how detrimental it is to your soul. It says that they're ambushing their own lives. So you need to remember that and don't try and discipline your way out of it. That is how the fool overcomes discipline. That is how the fool overcomes temptation. He tries and white knuckles his way through it. But the wise man steps back and he knows what is going to come forth out of this action. And through fearing of the Lord, he walks the righteous and noble path. Third one is the last warning. At the end of Proverbs 1, it says that if you ignore the counsel of wisdom or God, wisdom will laugh at your calamity when it strikes, and it will mock when terror strikes you. That's Proverbs 1:25 through 26. So you need to understand, if you perpetually reject the call of wisdom, the call of the righteous path, your heart will become hard and you will get what is coming to you. So you need to understand, if you're struggling with indecision or you're waiting for a better time in your life, when you're mature to choose the righteous and noble path, you're only storing up judgment for yourself. You're only hardening your heart even more, so you will be unrespondent to it in the future. You must understand that you can also commit a sin if you do nothing. That is the fallacy of that's what I call the fallacy of neutrality. People think that they're going to stay in the same place and they'll retain what they have and don't have. But that's wrong. When you stay in the same place, you are naturally going to tend towards destruction. So don't think your indecision and period of waiting is going to provide any benefit. You're only deceiving yourself. That is exactly what it says in James. Don't be hearers of the word, but doers of the word. Sorry, video cut off early because I have the free version. But anyways, choose wisdom early. That is the moral of the story. You are alive. You are young. God is calling you from the top of the mountain. And if you don't heed his voice, you will not surmount the mountain either. You will become lost. You'll become led astray. You become deceived by the devil. The future wife, family, job, happiness that you're looking for is on the other side of that mountain that God is calling you to the top of. So heed his voice. Remember what temptation does. And you will walk the path of the wise. Because if you don't, regret will teach it later when the time is too far gone. So hopefully that helped y'all. If it did, subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll be posting more chapters on Proverbs.